FBI crime report should inform policy decisions. That's the headline of the latest Carolina Journal online column from Ray Nothstine. He is opinion editor at Carolina Journal. And you look at the latest numbers from the FBI on violent crimes, and you find them pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I think it kind of points to the overall sort of chaotic nature maybe of our society right now. The murder rate is up 30%. And so that hasn't happened ever in terms of when the FBI started compiling all this data and putting it into a national report. So obviously that's very disturbing. I think some of that points to a few things. Obviously, defund the police. You have situations where police are pulling back from certain neighborhoods or certain environments in urban areas because of politics. You have rogue prosecutors who are being soft on crime right now. So especially in some of the big urban areas, saying they're not going to prosecute certain crimes. They're not going to go after more nonviolent offenders, which has an impact on more violent offenders. And another thing I think is just the pandemic to some extent as well, is where people are not plugged into civil society. People are a little bit more on the margins. And so I think that has exacerbated the murder rate and some of the violent crimes in the U.S. And here in North Carolina, we're outpacing the U.S. And I think that's another disturbing aspect of all of this.
One of the things that you note fairly early on is a disturbing part of this is that government's main function is to protect us and keep us safe, and this really flies in the face of what government's supposed to be doing.
Right. I think that's muddled today, right? I think a lot of people couldn't tell you, maybe just a man on the street, what is the purpose of government. One of its main purposes is to promote the general welfare, and that means protecting citizens, protecting the populace, helping people have an opportunity to flourish in this country, not necessarily give them a handout or micromanage their lives, but protect society. And that's a core function of government. And when it doesn't do that, then I think people need to look at the government and say, what direction are we headed, and why is it failing in ways to protect and to promote a common good in society? And certainly violent crime does not do that.
You devote some attention in this column to the work of our John Locke Foundation colleague John Guzet, who recently looked at police and said, we need more police. We don't need to defund the police. We need more, and they should be trained in community policing. What did you like about his arguments?
Well, I thought he made great points. This is something also Bill Clinton brought up in the 1992 campaign. Viewers old enough to remember that campaign, he promised 100,000 more police on the streets. It was a popular measure that he put forward, and a lot of governors supported him at the time. They wanted more police. So I think Guzet makes a great point. He goes through and talks about the importance of community policing. So his point is, I think, an important one about crime prevention, right? Not just apprehending bad guys and sentencing them to long sentences. While that's important, he kind of goes more into the preventative nature that if you have community policing that has been proven to be an effective tool to prevent crime, and that's ultimately what we want to do, because we want to protect families, we want to protect citizens and residents of North Carolina. And I think that's the wise move. And he makes a great case, too, that we're under-policed, that especially compared to many Western countries, we have less police per capita than a lot of Western nations, particularly in parts of Europe and other areas of the West. So that's an important point that he makes. I think it's just really incumbent on having the rule of law. And I think a trained police that are respectful, that can go into communities and have cash and credibility is really what is needed right now.
You've already mentioned defund the police, but let's get back to that, because this idea of taking some money away from policing efforts really flies in the face of protecting the people who these groups are saying that they're wanting to support.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd to even kind of have this conversation, right? There was an activist I saw on social media, I don't remember her name, but she was trying to claim that crime is just a made-up term. Crime is kind of this Western idea. It's this sort of dogmatic ideology where, she wants to create a utopian society or thinks it's even feasible. But we see, you watch the news and you read the news across North Carolina of the lives of families being shattered through crime, whether it be murder, whether it be rape, whether it be some other form of violent crime that can particularly just shatter a family, and the dynamics are destroyed, the family structure is destroyed. And so police I think it's really important. There was a Civitas poll, I think it was last year, where I think almost 80% of North Carolinians had a favorable view of police in their community. So it gets back to that aspect of community policing, how important that is to go in, to have a show of just relationship building in the community and reaching out to people who might be on the margins, people who need help. You don't want people scared. You don't want people, one of the things that Guzay pointed out is that you don't have many people reporting crimes because of this narrative that we see in the media, right, against police, where police are racist or police are out to abuse people, to rough handle them. And this narrative, I think, is toxic in this sense, is that what it is impacting crime. And we see this. I mean, we see this being measured where people are afraid to approach the police. People are afraid to talk to the police, particularly in urban environments. We see this a lot in Chicago, Mitch, where young people are gunned down, little kids are gunned down, and neighbors who may have witnessed it are afraid to talk to anybody, or maybe they just don't like the police, and so they're not going to speak to them. And victims' lives and families are destroyed. And, we need to get over that because we need to have the rule of law needs to reign in society, and there needs to be a respect for authority, for property, for life, and for all those things that incumbent on all humans to flourish.
The column once again has the headline, FBI Crime Report Should Inform Policy Decisions. Its author is Ray Nothstine. He is opinion editor at Carolina Journal. Thanks so much.
Thank you.